Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Molly from the Masterclass team. I'm excited to be here today with R.L. Stine, who is joining us from his home in New York City for our first live office hours, exclusively for Bob's Masterclass students. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled
This
to get
is
your thoughts.
this is your first one. I'm the guinea pig.
With you, at least.
Yes. Well, hi everybody. I'm so glad to have a chance to talk to everyone. And I'm here in my New York office. As you can see behind me, I still have a lot of projects going on. It's been kind of a busy time for me. We just signed on to do 6 more Goosebumps books, so I think I'm going to be busy for a while. And they just wrapped on the second Goosebumps movie. So I'm very excited about that. That's going to be out in October.
Congratulations, Bob.
Well, thanks. We keep moving, you know.
Excellent.
You have to kind of have to keep moving.
Yes. We've received a lot of great questions from your students, and we've even selected a few of them to join us on video today. So first off, let's get started with Lisa.
Hi.
Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Where are you?
Hi.
There you are. Hi. Where
Hi.
are you? Where are you?
Okay. Can you see me?
Yeah, I see you.
Okay, great.
Where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, you're right. All the way to Brooklyn.
Yes.
I'm on 74th and West End.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes. That's great. So my question, when it comes to the outline, how do you structure it? Is it just the chapters breakdown only, or do you break down details about characters and location?
I do characters separately. I do a character list before I start the book. And I write down the character, their name, basically what they look like, and give them a few she's bossy, he's dumb, he's this, just before I start. The outline has all the action of the book. It's chapter by chapter. And also, but I do some dialogue because it helps me, right? I kind of can't write the action without also doing the dialogue. So it'll be chapter 1, this is what happens. I put in a conversation, and then chapter 2, and that's basically what all the outline contains. It basically contains all the action of the book, everything that's going to happen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure.
And next up, we have John.
John, where are you?
Hey there, sorry about that. How are you doing?
Where'd you go? I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking my question today. I was really curious about the word length on the Goosebumps books, why they all tended to be around 23,000, I think.
Mm-hmm. I probably shouldn't have talked about word length. I got a lot of people upset about it.
Oh, really? It's always fascinating to me.
Well, I don't know. Generally, if you write an adult novel, your contract tells you how many words your book has to be. When I wrote Red Rain, my last adult novel, the contract called for 100,000 words. It was 400 pages. It had to be 100 pages.
Right.
It was in the contract. You had no choice. The Goosebumps books are, they have their formats. The publisher has a format, and they just want you to fit the format. So Goosebumps books are like 124 pages, and the manuscripts come to about 123,000. And that just fits what the format that they want. I have a little game. In that I always try to hit it exactly and end the book on word 123,000, word 23,000.
Right.
And not give them one extra word. I try to end exactly on the right number. I have to have some fun, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Tanya.
Hi, Bob. Can you see me?
I can. There you are. I see you, Tanya.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for taking
How are you?
question.
Where are you?
I'm actually calling from the Jersey Shore, so I'm also not very far.
Oh, nice. That's nice. Yeah, I wish I was at the shore, but
It's not a great day for it.
What?
I said it's not a great
terrible.
day.
It's not
Oh,
terrible.
you're right. You're right. So my question has to do with the use of tropes in horror. And in today's market, I'm just wondering whether or not you think a new author can use a cliffhanger such as, and then someone grabbed her.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to use that one anymore.
Oh, you aren't.
I used that about 4,000 times.
Right.
This is the hard part, is now to think of new chapter endings, to think of new cliffhangers that aren't the same thing. And it's a real challenge. And for a new writer, I think you've got to be very careful not to use chapter endings like that that have been used 1,000 times.
Right.
Lately, I've been doing endings like, gee, we didn't know what we were doing. If we had known what we were doing, we probably would never have done it.
Right. That's a really
That
good
kind
one.
That's
Yes.
pretty good, right?
Yes,
It's
it is.
different. But I spend a lot of time on chapter endings. And my advice would be to try to do original ones and try, you can't
keep it
really
fresh.
use those.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to have, it would be like a macro on my thing. It would say, she started to scream. She thought she would scream forever. I think that was in every book. Every book I wrote.
I never got tired of it. Let me say that.
My editors got very tired of it.
I can see.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, nice to talk to you.
You too.
And next up, we have Ryan. Here.
Where is he?
Ryan, say hello.
Hello, Bob.
Ryan, where are you?
I'm in Montreal, Quebec.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
don't try to come here, Brian. We don't like Canadians anymore.
Oh no, Montreal is apparently the Canadian New York, so I have a substitute. So my question for you, Bob, has to do with twists and surprises and the middle of a book. Are there ever such a thing as too many twists and surprises? And in your outline, how do you know if you're letting the middle drag or not?
Well, that you just have to know. You just know about action. Middles are hard. Middles are really hard. And I used to do a lot of trilogies with 3-part books. We did a lot of Fear Street trilogies. The middle book was always terrible, always. You knew your end, you know your ending, and you know you've got a really good ending and you want to get there, but to slog through that middle is really hard. It's a very hard thing, and you just have to be able to judge while you're reading your outline and while you're writing the book, say, oh my God, not much is happening here. But the opposite true. I mean, if a lot of horror has too much horror, and then it just gets silly if there are too many twists. What was that TV series, American Horror Story?
Yeah.
You ever see any of those? They had too much horror.
Yeah.
It was, and you can't really get into it. You can't believe it because so many horrible things are happening and so much is going on that it just becomes ridiculous. So you have to be careful. But I do say for a middle, it's good to have one really big twist in the middle that sort of turns things around. When writing for kids and the kid says, oh my God, I had no idea that was what was happening. And it sends the book off in a different direction. And that's kind of my trick for getting through middles.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Geez,
And
everyone's
now,
so nice. What's going on here? Everyone's so nice. I'm not used to this.
Now we have Sarah.
Hello.
Sarah, hi.
Hi. Do you find
I don't see you yet, Sarah. I'm waiting.
No.
I don't see you.
Do you see me now?
Where is she?
Hello.
Where's Sarah?
Hang on, Sarah, one moment. There we go.
Ah, there you are.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm actually in Seattle, so a little further.
Oh, nice. I'll be in Seattle in September.
I know, I'm going to be there.
Oh, good. Oh, well, be sure to come by. Okay? Be
I
sure to
will.
come by. What is it? I forget what I'm doing there.
You're the keynote speaker.
At what?
The Pacific Northwest Writers Association
Oh,
conference.
thank you. Thanks. I take it like a week at a time.
Fair enough.
So
Do you find a stigma of being known as a horror writer for kids? And how do you handle people's reactions that you like writing creepy and scary stories?
what do you mean a stigma? You mean like people yell at me on the street or what? What do you mean like a stigma?
I was just thinking of I'm a horror writer and I worry that people think that I'm a little weird because I like writing horror.
Oh, no, they all do. Oh, kids expect a horror writer to be weird. Then they think your whole life is horror. If I told them that, I go to the opera and I'm a ballet fan, they'd be horrified because I'm supposed to be totally into horror all the time. And seriously, when I do a school assemblies and walk out on stage, you hear them groaning. Say, oh no, because I'm not scary in any way. And it is funny that they expect you to be weird and scary. All the horror writers that I know personally and have known are like quiet people, guys from Ohio, like me. Quiet. So yeah, they do expect that, but come on, it's fun.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm not sure I answered your
I
question
think
or
you
anything,
did.
but yeah. Oh, good.
And now we have Melanie and Noah.
Aha.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good.
Are we done? What? Is that it? What kind of question do you have?
Have any of the characters you created ever given you nightmares?
Never.
No.
I have the most boring dreams you can imagine. Sorry, and I never have horror. Here's a typical dream of mine, seriously. The other night I dreamed I was eating a Snickers bar. That was like a really big dream for me. I love that. But no, I don't have scary dreams. Before I started writing horror, before I started doing scary stuff, I used to have this recurring nightmare all the time that I was being chased, that something was after me and I'd be running. And I had this bad dream. It was very scary. And I'd have it maybe a couple times a month. And then when I started writing the scary books, I never had it again. It went away. But I've never woken up with an idea. I always say you have to work at it. They never just, come to you in your sleep.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice, a pleasure.
Melanie and Noah were actually joining us from New Zealand.
Oh, well, why didn't they mention it? we could have talked about something. I don't know. They didn't mention it.
Next up, we actually have Megan.
Hi.
Hi, there you are. Hi, Megan.
How are you? I'm
Yeah,
good.
I'm okay. I'm good. I like this kind of stuff.
Me too.
I actually like talking to readers. Most authors don't like it.
No? Surprises me.
No, I want to stay home and write.
True. So my question is, for somebody trying to get published for the first time, what is your advice with that process and actually finding a publisher that meets the type of stories that they really want to put out there?
What type of stories you do?
I'm going for some, well, I just wrote something. I'm trying for like the Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark feel. Like that's really what I love.
Mm-hmm. Nice, middle grade.
Exactly.
7 to 12-year-olds, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for, I've been published for so long and I worked in publishing even before I had books out or anything. I was an editor at Scholastic for 16 years. So it's hard for me to talk about how to get started. I feel kind of out of it. And I especially feel out of it in all the self-publishing thing. And I think one thing I do know is, and that it's really changed, is that you can't just send something out there these days because there's no one in the publishing houses to read them. There used to be all these assistants who would read manuscripts that came in, and those jobs don't exist anymore. So if you like send a manuscript to a publisher, it's just going to get sent back. So you really do need to find lists of agents and talk to agents and tell them about what your ideas are and send sample and find an agent. And that's basically the only way to get in these days.
Okay.
Unless you know an editor or something like that.
Nope.
But yeah, I know it's changed quite a bit. And as far as self-publishing goes, I just don't know enough about it to be able to say, oh, that's the way to go now. Boy, I think if you do self-publish, you've got to be a really good marketer.
Yeah.
You have to find, how do you get noticed? I don't know how you get noticed. I think 200,000 people wrote self-published novels last year. 200,000 of them. How do they ever get noticed by anybody? You know? So I would say, write your stuff, get it, organized, and, there are lists of agents, all kinds of agents online, and just start approaching agents and see what happens.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll be hearing my name one day.
Hope so. That would be nice.
Yes.
And now we have Aaron joining us.
Hey there.
Aaron, hi.
Hi, Bob. I'm in Tokyo, Japan. So
isn't this an amazing world?
Oh, it is.
Isn't it? I once had a video conversation. My son was in New York and I was in Shanghai, and we did this, and I thought, this is amazing. It really is. It's incredible, right?
It is. It's great to be able to talk to family being so far away, especially.
Yeah, right. What are you doing in Tokyo?
I'm working in the visual novel game industry. And right now I'm trying, well, actually it's part of my question. So my question is, I would appreciate some advice on how to write a choose your own adventure. I'm trying to write my own, and I'm stuck on the workflow. So like, what's your method? And my goal is just to take your class to write your choose your own adventure script for a visual novel game.
Yeah, visual novel game would throw me. I don't know, but I'll tell you, the books that we did about 100 of them. In fact, there was like 2 or 3 years where I only wrote books that didn't have a beginning, middle, or end. They were all choose your own.
Oh, wow.
Young Indiana Jones, choose your own adventure, find your fates, and give yourself goosebumps. And we did a lot of them. And I think they're easier to write than they look. That's all I did. Because you're not really doing a novel. You're not really doing a whole story. You're doing little short episodes, and they usually end with the character dying, with the person dying, right?
Okay, right.
Slowly, right. You go 5 pages and you make the wrong choice and you're done. And then you have to go back and start and make the right choices. So first thing I would do is get a yellow pad. I would number from 1 to 120.
Okay.
So I made a chart, and then just as I wrote the stuff, filled it in. So I would start with page 1, and page 1 branches to 14 and 28. You say, do you want to attack the snake or do you want to attack the bear? Snake, page 14, bear, page 28, and fill it in on the chart, and just fill it in and watch the chart fill up, and just keep going back and forth. And as far as the stories go, you want to have one through story where they survive. I don't know if this is what you have in mind, but you want to have one story that gets them all the way through. So I'd write that first.
Okay.
Write that whole story and do, if they choose the bear, then they have to choose the invisible boy. And if they choose the invisible boy, they have to go to Cleveland, not Cincinnati. And then you know,
right.
And then you're victorious at the end. And write that story first. And then you've got a whole bunch of short stories where they die, and just fill them in. You do this, oh, sorry, you fell off the cliff. Better luck next time.
Okay, great.
Is this helpful at all?
Yeah, it totally is. The order is what I was having trouble with, but that makes sense. Go for the main story first.
Yeah, you fill in the main story, you know you're done, and then nothing else really counts. You know, you have your punchlines and your fake endings, all
extra
the way,
twists,
you know, you've got it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope that helps. I once walked into, a friend of mine was appearing at Caroline's Comedy Club here in New York. And we walked in, and there was a young guy who came on before him. And his whole comedy act was about my choose your own adventure books. I'm sitting at the table, I couldn't believe it. And he said how he never caught on and he always read them in order. And they never made sense to him. And he couldn't understand why people at my table were laughing so hard.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He had no idea I was there.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And that was his whole act about that. It was pretty funny.
Thanks a lot, Bob. That's great.
Yeah, great to talk to you.
You too.
And now we are welcoming Bridget.
All right, Tokyo. You believe it?
Hello.
Man. Tokyo in New Zealand. Where are you?
Do you see me? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, so not too far.
Oh, come on. We just had New Zealand. We had Tokyo, and you're in Brooklyn.
I'm right around the corner.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this course and for taking my question. So I'm an aspiring horror writer and filmmaker. So my question for you is, what would you say is the key to horror that separates it from other genres like suspense or thrillers?
I don't know. That's a very hard question. I think it just goes farther. You know, I think it just goes farther. And it's guttier. It's, it has to be a little grosser and a little more disgusting than a regular thriller and a thing. But I was just talking about, and I think horror has to be funny at the same time. There has to be like a humor element. To me, they're like so closely entwined, horror and humor. It's just, when you go up to somebody or you sneak up on them and you go, boo, like this, they always gasp, right? They're horrified. And then they laugh. It's that same visceral reaction, I think. And I don't think I'm answering your question at all.
No, you are.
No, I don't think I am. Horror is about more than thrillers or mysteries. It's about getting this certain reaction from people, from really forcing them to react, forcing them to recoil or gasp or scream or be. It's about getting that reaction, and this is better than what I said first. And then I think is the difference between thrillers and mysteries.
I like that point, like a home invasion movie. That could be just a drama, or it can be horror, depending on, like you said, how far they go, right?
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah, that's true. And the different, I'm in the International Thriller Writers, and we meet every summer, and we have all these panels on what's the difference between a thriller and a mystery. Endless discussions. But the difference between a thriller novel and a mystery novel? About 100,000 copies. That's the difference. Yes. It's a little publishing joke.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, I hope I was helpful in some way.
You were.
Good luck with the writing.
Thank you very much.
And now we're actually joined by Dan.
Okay.
Hi there.
Dan, where are you?
Can you see me?
I can. Hi.
Hi. Hi there. I'm a huge fan of you and your books, started reading them when I was about 7.
Yeah, thanks. And you turned out okay?
Yeah.
Despite those books?
Yeah, despite those books. And one series in particular, which was the Give Yourself Goosebumps books, which was my personal favorite.
Uh-huh.
And my question is, yeah. My question is, in the Give Yourself Goosebumps books, you had like such creative ways to just imply the horrible deaths that the reader has in some of the endings. And my question is, how exactly do you know as you're writing if something is too gruesome for kids to actually read?
Well, you have to kind of know, I've done this for so long, you kind of know it. But I do have a rule. Maybe I talked about this in the class, but I have a rule that the kid has to know that it couldn't happen, that it's not real. It's not real. The kid has to know that it's like a fantasy, and if it's presented as a fantasy, not like a realistic thing, you can go pretty far with the scares. But I always want them to know, well, this couldn't happen. This is crazy. This is a fantasy. And then you can go pretty far. I mean, everyone dies in those books all the time, but usually bizarrely, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, right. I love doing those. These were really fun. And people ask me about them now all the time, but we can't get any publishers interested. Nobody wants to do them now. I think they think that was a fad or something, and that's in the past. And so
it was pretty old.
Nobody thinks of doing them now.
Yeah, well, there are some choose your own adventure on on websites where they can just like click the line where it says if you want to go over there, and they just take them to this specific page.
Oh yeah.
These are some that survived on the internet right now.
They're all probably pirated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
And now we're joined by LK.
LK.
Say hello, LK.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, there you are. I'm very suspicious of people who use their initials. Hello?
Oh, you're my hero. That's why I decided I'd emulate you.
Oh, you're very kind. Very kind. Where are you?
I'm in DC, where all the fun is.
Nice. Yeah, all the fun.
All the fun. My question actually has to do with characters. You mentioned that you try to keep your character descriptions general, so that the kids can see themselves in your book. But I also understand that there is a push, the protagonist, but there's also kind of sort of a desire to bring more diversity into books. So I wanted to
you froze.
Both general enough where oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you froze for a moment.
Oh, sorry. Is there a way to accomplish being both general in description so everybody can see themselves, but also respecting diversity?
Yeah,
I know
I think there is. Yeah, I mean, you can still have a lot of minority characters. That's all they look for now. It's a very big thing. A lot of minority characters in your books. But I try the protagonist, everything that happens in a horror novel goes through her eyes. It's what she sees. It's what she feels. I was talking about very close point of view, which I think is the real key to being scary. And so I want the reader to be the protagonist. So usually I don't describe the protagonist very much at all, just so the reader will be able to say, oh, that's me. I'm in this. I'm doing this. My Goosebumps editor had the perfect line. She said, you're great at, you do wonderful cardboard characters, which is really, it's really true. You do perfect cardboard characters. And, and I do get criticized a lot for not having much characterization. That comes out in a lot of reviews, but it's a deliberate thing. But that doesn't really stop you from having minority characters at all, don't you think?
Yeah, so you can still describe the characters and have them have the diversity with the characters, but when you're writing the protagonist, like you said, they're coming from their own eyes, so it should be like anybody in there thinking inside.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Well, thank you very much.
No, my pleasure.
Now, we do have a couple of students who were unable to join us today, but they still sent in questions. And if you still have the time, I'd love to be able to ask them on their behalf.
We're good.
Excellent. So the first one comes from Jeff. Are your first drafts typically longer or shorter than your second drafts, and so on? When you revise or edit, are you generally taking away or adding new stuff?
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to say. Generally, I was just talking about the game I play as far as word count and making sure I have the exact word count. My first draft is almost always the same length as the second draft. There's not going to be a big difference at all. I have many editors. I have a lot of editors, and they ask for things to be taken out. Sometimes they'll want something very complicated, some solution, and I figure, oh, it's easier just to take that paragraph out. I'm the master of the easy solution. And so when I'm revising, I'm really good at finding a real easy way to do it. And then I'll just maybe take a paragraph out. But you can't really look at it that way, as adding, subtracting. I couldn't answer that question. I just wrote a Fear Street novel called Drop Dead Gorgeous. And I don't want to give away too much, but because of circumstance, all the Fear Street novels take place in a town called Shadyside. And Fear Street itself is a street in Shadyside. And I had, the novel took place in Shadyside. And then there was a vampire character who we learn about from 5 years before. I'm not going to explain this well at all, but 5 years before, she became a vampire, and then she comes to school now, today, and the school is saying, well, that's weird. We can't get her school records. Her school won't, but she's already in Shadyside. They would have it was a big mistake on my part. So the editor, and this never happened to me before, said, you have to change the location. You have to put them in another city. So I had to, this revision, I had to make up a whole new city and all new streets, and the river became a lake, and I had to take it out of Shadyside and make up a whole new town for them, because 5 years earlier it took place in Shadyside. I don't know if I've explained this well, but what a strange revision. I've never had to, just go through page by page and make sure the city is different. But that comes, that's not really adding, subtracting. It's just, that was an important change.
Interesting. And that actually feeds nicely into our next question submitted by Adrienne. All of your books have covered so many monsters, from ghosts, zombies, evil sponges, and even the abominable snowman. Yet there are some things I'm not sure you've touched on. How do you decide which monstrous or supernatural elements were included in your story's world and which ones weren't?
I wish she told me which ones weren't. Maybe I could use them. I don't know. I just try to deal with characters and creatures that kids would know, that they'd be familiar with, and that they could picture. So maybe I've left things out. There's some things I haven't done that, I don't know, they just don't appeal. Well, I did a 5-city book tour in China, which was just wonderful. And the kids all said to me, why don't you write about dragons? Why don't you have books about dragons? Because in China, dragons are good. They're not evil. Dragons are good. And it never really occurred to me, but I don't know, it's like a different world or something. And I don't think I've ever done a Goosebumps book about dragons. And I'm sure I have to confess, I'm not a huge horror reader. It's not really what I read. So I'm sure there are a lot of things maybe I don't know about. I haven't read Lovecraft. I don't know all those characters. I'm not really a horror expert. And but I try to be an expert in what kids will relate to, and that's basically how I choose the monsters.
Thank you. And then our final question comes from Sandra. What does your typical workday look like?
My wife says I'm just like the dog. I do everything in exactly the same order every day. And I get up and I think she's probably right. And I'm here at my desk, 9:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock, and I write. I've done my outlines. I write, and I write 2,000 words a day. It's sort of like factory work. I'm here, I do 2,000 words, and when I hit 2,000, I stop, no matter where I am. I don't finish the chapter, I leave it for tomorrow. I've done 2,000 words, that's 10 pages. I do 10 pages a day. And then I get up and take the dog for a walk. And that's basically my day. But I'm cut out for being at home. I love working at home. And I'm cut out for this. I've never gotten tired of it. I've written about 350 books now. And I still really enjoy it. And I do every day, usually 6 days a week, and do my pages.
Well, it doesn't feel like work when you love it. Thank you so much for answering all of these questions.
Oh, thanks, Molly. That was really fun.
I'm so glad. And that actually concludes our live office hours today. Bob, just thank you again for joining us, sharing your wisdom and your humor. This has been an absolute delight. And thank you also to all of our students who have tuned in, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Oh, thank you. What a pleasure.